Welcome to Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 here on Municipal Affairs. With October 20th fast approaching, the race for a municipal office across Alberta is heating up. From every corner of the province, candidates for mayor, reeve, and even councillor are stepping forward with ideas for stronger communities, smarter growth, and brighter futures. Today, we are turning our attention to Ward 6 in the Municipal District of Bonnyville, where we are sitting down and chatting with Ben Fadeyiw, who is currently running for re-election in Ward 6 of the MD of Bonnyville. Ben, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about yourself and talking about your run for re-election for Ward 6 in the Municipal District of Bonnyville. I got to start with a simple question. What made you decide to re-offer and put your name back in for another term as councillor for Ward 6 in the Municipal District of Bonnyville?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Again, I just want to say appreciate you. And yeah. So again, what we do, it's a long game. I People have told me that it's going to take you 2 terms to get to know stuff and to feel comfortable. And the first month I heard that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, whatever, right? And sure enough, having completed 2 terms, I do realize that the connections you make and everything else, long term is when the third term, fourth term is actually when you really get to do something. And we all know that governments change, positions change. Just when you get to know a minister or his people, it's like, oh, that's changed, and now you're starting from day one almost, right? So in second term, when those positions get moved around, you actually have a connection with another, chief of staff that you've known from another position, and you can ask him some direct questions and everything else. So it's really good. So I'm excited about that. That's still some projects that that need to get done. Our provincial government and federal government, move at a snail's pace. So there's a lot of things that still I would like to see for not only my ward, but for the MD of Bonnyville.
So, what are those issues that are still percolating within Ward 6 and even in the grander scheme? Because you've been on the show before, and we've both agreed that while you are elected by the people of Ward 6, you're there to represent the entire municipal district of Bonnyville. So, let's look at the local issues first. What are the issues that you're hearing from residents that still need to be addressed after 2 terms in office?
Yeah, on the local end, we've had a lot of great wins. One of the big wins for me in the last 2 terms is the connection and I guess getting along with the city of Cold Lake. There's been a kind of a divide, and I think that's really, it's gone away pretty well now. So it's good, and it's good to keep that momentum going. Again, I was, the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Cold Lake for years, so I had those connections already. So when I came in, it was easy for me to grab those connections and just bring them all together. So that was a good part. And we need to keep that going. Just for the, we're the MD of Bonnyville, but we also surround the town of Bonnyville and the city of Cold Lake, and those are really truly our communities. My kids go to school, or used to go to school in the city of Cold Lake. We shop in Cold Lake. We have 2 businesses in Cold Lake. So again, we're not just empty of Bonnyville. We are a community, and I think that that message still has to get out there, and we can collaborate on some great issues. Water, sewage, any things. It's not just a municipality that's doing it. We need to do it all together. So I think those are some of the long-term things that need to get done as far as our region goes. For the MD of Bonnyville, again, it's this, I call it this side of the river. Didn't get a lot of funding from the MD. So we've always had issues with fire services. So when you went into the Ward 6 part towards Saskatchewan, because you're further away from a local fire station, the cost of insurance were huge.
Wow.
Council, granted my request of a fire hall slash greeter shop. It was a it was a it was a tough day for Cherry Grove, where somebody set fire to the local Mormon church, and we have no fire trucks there. The way he said it, we would have never saved the church, but it's just the I guess the sense of helplessness was there, where people were just watching the fire, watching the church burn down instead of you know trying to put it out, right, or trying to save the neighboring shell properties. So that I asked council, and it's the iron was hot. I had to strike, and of course, council, they're sensitive to the situation, so they said, yeah, okay, so that's roughly with the trucks and everything else. You're looking at about $6 million investment that the MD did. Yeah, and then the first term, we got an ODR, outdoor rink, that's NHL size, and it's covered, and it's beautiful. So when Cherry Growth first started, it was all donated. All the rink was done by donations, plywood, boards, a little bit of asphalt here and there, and it was crumbling apart. So with the Cherry Grove Ag Society and myself, we came up with a game plan and the push to make the MD aware of this, and yeah, we built a beautiful ODR that's going to last forever, right? So everything's made out of aluminum and sheet metal and all that stuff. So it's there for the long run. So some pretty good wins, and I just want to keep that going.
So we look at the big wins that you just were talking about, and I am going to ask the political question on the political show about political politics on the municipal show. So you and we've chatted before, as I've said, and we've said that there's only one taxpayer, and that means that there's times that you're going to have to make some very tough decisions. During your time in council, you've had to make some tough decisions, which would dictate some people's day-to-day livings with their property taxes. How do you find yourself being able to balance that responsibility of spending tax dollars wisely, but ensuring that people do have access to, like you said, an outdoor rink, reliable fire services, so that way, if something like that was to ever happen again, there wouldn't be a long wait time, or insurances would be skyrocketed because you don't have access to that. So, how do you find yourself being able to balance the needs of the community with the realities that they're facing financially?
Yeah, I mean it's fortunate and unfortunate. I mean for me on looking at the end, I want the whole of MD to have the equal amount of services, right? I don't want one area to not have a service in the other area that does. And that was unfortunately, we've seen that to be a problem in my work. That's really balanced out now,
Yeah.
where we all have fire services in almost every corner of the MD, including BRFA, which is right in just outside of Bonnyville. It's I think we're there now for that part of it. We're lucky we had some money in reserves that we took out, and we kind of moved it elsewhere, and that was the funding. So there's no major increases in taxes. Uh, you know, Again, our biggest heartache for the next little while is just it's a trade war. It is that everything we buy, from fire trucks to the yellow iron that we have, the graders and everything else, is there's steel involved, and we're our bridges are coming in at 40% higher than we budgeted for. Like, instead of $1 million a bridge, we're looking at 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, and that's just from a quote that we did a year ago. And it's not as if this was done 10 years ago and oh yeah, inflation and all that crap, right? It's staggering, and it's just when you think you have a little bit of money, you don't.
Well, and just even on that note, like the quote was from a year ago. I can imagine what that price is now. Like you
Oh,
budget it for 1 million. I can imagine that
yeah.
price is now 1.7, 1.8 million. So it's even
Oh,
gone up higher. And I'm not trying to say like that is a bad excuse for not doing things. You need to get things done, but you have to look at the financial realities, right?
oh, totally. And we do have a bridge fund. But now we're, and it's going to be a tough discussion is, we have to look at how many people does that bridge service? Is it anybody? Is it one person? Is it industry? Industry, wants us to drop their taxes, but yet, they're using, you know, the $90 million of infrastructure that needs to get replaced for their transportation, right? So that was the quote we got about 2 years ago was $90 million in bridge replacement in the next 10 years. So again, yeah, so
Wow.
totally right. And we're not the
So
only ones, right? I mean,
so what
Lamont, I mean, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna say, what in your background gives you and I don't want to say leg up because I don't want people to assume that I'm being playing favorites, but you're on the show, so I'm going to play a little bit of favorite because you're sitting down with me right now. What in your background gives you the, I don't want to say understanding, but gives you the ability to adapt to those situations? Because you're a businessman by in background, you were president of the chamber before getting elected. How does your background prepare you to go into this next term of office understanding that you're going to have to make some very tough decisions, and that means you're going to have to make some very tough financial decisions about infrastructure, around roads, around bridges that maybe 4 years ago or a new counselor may not be able to?
100%. And it's also setting up, not only this council coming up, but the next council, not to fail, right? Again, it was election year. A lot of people, made promises of, zero tax increases, 2% tax increase. We came in at just over three. We can't do a 0% tax increase, right? You can't. I mean, everything is going up. We should always gradually increase that bump. So this way, we're not getting to the point where our administration and they tell us all the time, right? Getting to the point where our administration says, okay, we're in trouble. We need a 15% increase or a 20% increase, just to crack the nut. Uh, you know, our debt limit is at its max. We're not there, but I'm just using that example, and I've seen it around everywhere where those situations have happened, and I do not want to see that anywhere. If I'm in council next term or the term after, I'm still a ratepayer, and I don't want to. I'm expecting a smaller increase, but not the 20%, not the 25. And I think just that push of we have to slowly increase the funds or the tax base, and then also look for new funding, right? Look for new wins to fill up our hopper with some new money, right? So economic development is part of it, and I'm excited about that part.
So one of the oh, actually, during the summer, there was a report from the Fraser Institute that was released that said that municipalities are not spending wisely when it comes to their tax dollars, and it has increased on things that are traditionally not in the municipal jurisdiction. Now, I've asked this to the majority of candidates who are running, and you are a candidate running for reelection, so I'm going to ask you, and I know you're running for reelection, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what you're about to say. But do you think the MD of Bonnyville spends the tax dollars wisely?
I think we do. We're fortunate that we don't have a lot of the service needs in our jurisdiction, right? We don't have social housing needs in our jurisdiction. That's the city of Cold Lake, that's the town of Bonnyville. So we're as a rural municipality, we're quite fortunate not to have those things right in our backyard. But I see it, right. I see where certain MLAs and certain ministers are set in a position that some of these costs need to be shared with municipalities. And it's like my my property taxes should be going towards infrastructure, towards the building, towards all that stuff, not
To the fire
social needs,
services.
right? The fires, like like social needs. Like we don't need to build a halfway house where that's not where my personal taxes, what I pay to the province, my business tax that goes to the province, that goes towards social needs and funding, and I need to have those fights. We need. My biggest thing is and I'm seeing a shift where I feel like there's going to be a shift that we cannot be independent as municipalities. We can't be that independent voice. Uh, you know, had a heavy conversation with somebody that was on the extreme the position of things, and I said I do not want to fly a flag. I do not want to be flying blue, flying orange, flying whatever. I need to be independent. We need to hold up our MLAs accountable, our province accountable. And when I fly a flag, I told this person, there's gag orders. All of a sudden, you're like, you can bring up this subject. Well, why not? Well, because you are part of us, and we would like you not to, right? So the support, the money, and I've seen this in England, where where it happens all the time, where your social your municipal needs are no longer needs; they're run from the top down instead of from the bottom up.
Well,
And I'm
and
thinking,
it's a good area because we were seeing the introduction of partisan politics into the municipal realm right now with Calgary and Edmonton. We're not sure what's going to happen after this election, so let's just put that on hold. But the best line I've ever heard, and I forget who told me this, so I apologize if I'm crediting it to someone, and that's why I'm not going to say their name, but there's no conservative way to fill a pothole or a liberal way to fill a pothole or an NDP way to fill a pothole or a Bloc Québécois way to fill a pothole or a UCP way to fill a pothole. Filling a pothole is the exact same no matter what stripe you're wearing, what political party you are. It's a pothole, and that's where the municipalities should deal with. And as a municipality, you have to deal with UCP in Edmonton and a federal government that is a liberal by Mark Carney. So you have to be able to adapt, and you can't be pigeonholed because of a party stripe that you're wearing at a municipal level.
totally. And that person said, "Well, aren't you blue?" And I'm like, "Well, it doesn't matter if I am, but yeah, but I don't." So if there's a change of government, and that government becomes orange, and I go up to the minister and ask him for something, he's like, "Well, you're that blue guy." I I know where you stand, and I don't know if will he take me as seriously, or
Yeah.
she take me as seriously as me being a counselor for the MD of Bonnyville. And that's where I'm afraid of things, where things are changing. And we need to keep our independence, and we need to keep our I yeah
Do
we
you feel
can't
like
be we
do you
can't be
feel like it
partisan.
do you feel like in the last 8 years you've had that independent streak where you have found yourself opposing things that traditionally are conservative or opposing things that are traditionally liberal and saying, you know what, I'm not looking at things through a partisan lens. I'm looking at things as what is good for Bonnyville, because, or the MD of Bonnyville, sorry, because there's a lot of people who vote and say, I don't care how you vote provincially or federally. I want to know that when I put you on council, you're going to vote for the best interest and always the best interests of what the MD of Bonnyville needs.
Totally. I feel very comfortable in saying yes. Yeah, I've had that independence, where every time we have an RMA, I've always had a chance to come up to the mic and ask about the needs, even though, they were orange at times, or, now they're blue, and I can, with with zeal and passion, come up there and ask those questions without having to pull back of some of the hard questions that I need to do, that they might be skirting around. Where if I was, orange, asking somebody orange a question, I would have to be a little more careful on how I, adapt my questions, right? So I think independence, I think it's very important, and the province knows that we are the best to implement some of these services. We get things done, we implement stuff right away. We we fix bridges quite fast without I mean, there's still engineering to be involved, but yeah, that's the end of it there. I still think we need that independence.
I want to turn to some of the macro issues that the MD of Bonnyville is dealing with right now. And you talk about infrastructure, and there's one infrastructure project that in the 5 years I've been doing this show, I've heard about more often than I probably thought I would ever hear about. And that is a major highway that connects Edmonton all the way up to Cold Lake, and that is Highway 28. 88, 28, 28. Is it 28? I
28.
feel
20,
28.
yep.
And I apologize if I get this wrong because I'm not a mapologist or a master in geography. But Highway 28 runs through Ward 6, correct?
It does. Well, some of it does, yes. Just
Well, it runs through the MD,
it
correct?
runs through the whole of MD. I mean, it is. We don't have roads east and west. We have one major road that goes north and south, and that's Highway 28. Down south. I mean, there's a lot of major arteries that go east and west. It's a major trade corridor. We have fuel that's coming up to the base. We don't have rail. We have grain that's going down towards Vermilion. It's all using 28. It's our main transportation corridor. It hasn't had any love in years. It's getting to the point where there's some places that are absolutely horrendous. If you go by Bellis, which is kind of by Vilna, Bellis area, it's outright terrible, and it's shameful that the province has let this highway get that bad. We heard a lot of promises. You get, okay, well, we're going to do $5 million. We give you $5 million to do a study, and then you're like, okay, great. And then you have the MLAs and everything else saying, well, yeah, it's going to get fixed. Yeah, but it's not in the budget. The line item is not in the budget. The engineering is not even like the full engineering. It's not even in the budget. So how can you say it's going to get fixed when it's not in the budget? There's a line item, and you can see Highway 28, and there would be X amount of dollars. It should be like hundreds of millions, but it's not, right? So they keep promising. Talked to Minister Grecian. He said, I heard it right from him saying, yes, we are looking at it. It's maybe it's Horner that's not giving the money, or whatever else, right? So we need to keep pushing. There's some improvements. There's some surface done, some surface work done, some intersections by Smoky Lake that are kind of for farmers to kind of. But there's no passing lanes. There's no major upgrades that need to get done to keep that road flowing safely and well.
Do you see yourself in the next term being able to continue putting your foot on the proverbial pedal to make sure that these infrastructure projects, whether they be bridges, whether they be the highway, get on the provincial radar? Because talk is cheap. Action is something that a lot of people are looking for right now. And you've been there for 8 years. So people are saying, okay, Ben, it's either now or never. And the roads are not getting better as we wait for them to get fixed. Last time I checked, roads deteriorate. They don't just magically improve overnight. So do you see yourself being able to ensure that this continuously stays on the radar of people who are in Edmonton, who are making the financial decisions around major highways or infrastructure projects?
Well, we kind of got it through to them in the last few years that it's more of a economic flow. It's the commodity lens they have to look at. So for a while, you could say it's unsafe, it's this and that, and that seemed to have no impact on their decision. Now, we kind of with the RMA, but with the help of the RMA, we kind of went along the other way, going, how much money is coming out of our area that is supplying the rest of the province? And there's some days we feel like Alberta in Canada, but on a provincial scale, we are sending so much money to the province, and we're not getting some of the love needed. And I think that push needs to keep on going. I think Minister Grecian is the right guy, to be there. He is, he is very rural. I can have some great conversation with him, and he's actually listening. I had a meeting with a minister of tourism, trying to get some money for Canosa Ridge and get some spotlight, and he's like, "Well, you're pushing on a door that's open already." Okay, but we're even though he said that, we've seen zero action on that part of it, right? So again, with Minister Grecian, I think he is the right guy there to help us out on through. And if there is a change, right, I think with the ADMs and on all that stuff that are there, I think they're getting the message loud and clear. And it's been an ask from us probably every chance we get to meet him, which is 2 to 3 times a year. So we do ask him that all the time. So we're moving the ball forward. We're not changing our direction. And I think that needs to get pushed.
So I want to turn to Ward 6 as a whole for a few seconds before we start wrapping up, because we're about 25 minutes in, and I want to make sure you have enough. If you have a busy day, because I know you're running for re-election, so you have to go door knock, you have to go make sure your business is well taken care of, and everything else with the family life, because I now know you, I think you're an empty nester, if I'm not mistaken, because your kids are all off in college, university, so it must be nice to just have a little bit of downtime where you don't have to worry about kids for 2 minutes. But
Totally.
I want to talk about Ward 6, because many people might be looking at this election saying, okay, what has Ben delivered for us? What is the thing that I can look at and say, okay, this is the thing that Ben did for us, and that's why I want to keep him here. Looking back on the last 8 years in office, is there a project or an item that you can point to and say, okay, I'm happy we got this done, because it continues to make Ward 6 one of the greatest wards in the MD of Bonnyville?
Yeah, again, some of the challenges we had when the MD was growing, like 12 years ago, was development. So when the developers came to us and they're like, okay, we need to have lots and we need to make bigger lots and have lots around the city of Cold Lake and everything else, they built these lots, and there are some issues, some water flow issues. We spent roughly on two subdivisions, roughly $1.6 million on increasing, flood mitigation. People were, had water in their basements, and their front lawns were looking like little lakes. So that was dealt with properly. We have a plan now, and so that's on one end. The other end is fire services. We have the largest hamlet in the MD Bonnyville, which is Cherry Grove, had no fire services. So it took a while. Took about 6 years to push the envelope to get a grader shop and a fire station in there, and just the volunteerism end of it, bringing fire hall it's incredible how it brings the community together. One of our things is rec. It's we put in the ODR, which is another simple little thing. Like when you drove through the hamlet, you drove through Fort Kent and Ardmore. Come Christmas time, you've seen fancy little lit up candy canes that are up in a power poles. Cherry Grove didn't have that, and I'm like, why not, right? You have the largest hamlet. So, as simple as candy canes on a light pole makes me happy, because we're equalizing the MD of Bonnyville, so all services are everywhere, not in certain regions. Simple thing like I'm quite involved with the community. There was an outcrying of a postal service that we had, that the gentleman was shutting down his post office. There was a fire in there by a local bad guy that threw a Molotov cocktail into the post office.
Really?
So it caught a little. Totally same guy that burnt down the church. So
Holy moly.
So the gentleman goes, I'm getting to that place where I want to retire, and the post office thing is, between insurance and everything else, I'm going to step back from it. So Canada Post, did not put out the postmaster position again. There was a local meeting, even after 2 years of having those conversations with post office. that we want it back here. The Ag Society will take it over, and truly 2 years of back and forth. And when push came to shove, they decided. Well, they did a couple things, but it was very uh, undermined it. And so, we had a town hall meeting. We had the union of the post office union there, and within a week the position got posted. And we're going to have a post office in Cherry Grove again, and it's all going to be done by the Ag Society. There's some fundraising. There was a pie auction that was done. And all those little things are going to be great for the community itself.
Another 4 years on council would bring you up to 12 years in your a term as a municipal councillor. Do you still have the same passion as doing the job that you had on day one when you first got elected those 8 years ago?
I think more so.
How so?
Day one was drinking from a fire hose, right? You're just trying to stay afloat and trying to get your bearings to what's happening, right? And now, I mean, I have a pretty good idea of what I need to do with administration, how I need to talk to them, how we need to push certain items, right? That part of it is great. How we need to deal with the province, and unfortunately, we don't deal a lot with the feds, but with the province to push our issues. So, yeah, I mean, and getting to know these people more on a one-to-one basis. I had a chance to walk through the ledge, and a couple of ministers knew me by name walking through, right? So
Hopefully,
you're
in a
thinking
good way, they knew your name. Like
in a good way, right?
the worst thing
In a
you
good way,
need.
and they're like, "Hey Ben, how you doing?" I'm like, "Great," right? But I'm always respectful, but yet to the point as well. I think they're just people. They're trying to do a job. You treat them with respect, but yet you have to get your message across. And I think they do respect the no BS type of way. They need to know your issue without all the fluff. And I think I can definitely bring that to them. So it's great. It's great to see that.
So there's going to be a lot of challenges that the MD faces, whether it be financial, whether it be infrastructure. What's priority number one for a third term for Ben Fadeyiw?
It's some of the flood mitigation in one of our areas by Marie Lake, and some of the it was a settlement of just cabins. When the ID broke down and gave it to the MD, we took over the actual houses, but we weren't allowed to take over the MRs. That was still the provinces. Totally weird.
Yeah.
So we finally, after 3 years of talking to lands and environment and whatever else, we finally got that handed over to us, so we can actually do some proper mitigation that way. Uh, you know, Fire safety on that end. These guys live on the edge of the provincial green line, where our fire services are here, and they're over there. So again, uh, you know, fire controls, good practices that way, and water. Like we have some major water lines, but Cherry Grove and all that area, we have nothing. We have it's a high arsenic. The well water is okay. A lot of so we're seeing a lot of our areas that are getting water. And that's gonna be my like one of my biggest pushes with with our MLA is getting some water services, even though it's just a station or something, right? But did a water study, and it's good. Canusa Ridge is a big part of it, which is I've been we were actually finally getting a water study done. It took us 2.5 years to get our the part where they say, okay, well, the first study's done. Now we need to get a water study done, because it's a provincial water body. There's fish in it, so we want to do a mooring spot, and we're sitting on a beautiful gem that's there, and it's costing us money. And this will be just another service that we could provide for not only MD residents, but the tourism part, where people actually can come and put their boat down in the mooring end of it, because Cold Lake is they're tapped out. They have no more spots for boats. They can't do that. So yeah, so it's there's lots of other things, just keeping the good things that we did going, right? So yeah, so one of the big wins is scholarship programs that we've done for locals, and we've
I've seen that.
for
I've seen some press releases
yeah.
around that going out by the MD of Bonnyville. That's huge. Like not a lot of municipalities do that anymore.
Well, there's been a brain drain, right? People are coming out of school. They're they go to the big cities, and they'll get offered something by somebody, and they just maybe shouldn't say never come back. So we're looking for those kids that are grassroots, that love rural, that we can help fund, that when they do get their education, they'll think of us and they'll want to come back to our region. And we also knew that when we are giving out this money, maybe they won't be living in the MD, but they might move to Bonnyville or Cold Lake, and still provide their services to the area. Because again, nurses, we don't have any hospitals in the MD of Bonnyville, right? We have them in the towns and in the cities. So again, if they come back here for the greater good of the community, I think that's great. And I think our budget allows us to to put that in. And I think we've set the bar and challenged some different stakeholders with that as well, where they go back to their board and they're like, did you see what the MD of Bonnyville did? And they're like, you mean 1,500? They're like, no, they give them 15,000. And they're like, oh wow. So they're feeling like they need to up their game, right? So that's for doctors. We gave $7,000 for RNs, and $10,000 for vets, for big animal vets. Yeah. So schooling's going up, right? I mean, your average schooling is anywhere between $20,000 and $40,000 per year. So these kids and the families need that extra influx of money. So happy to support the community.
I feel like I really got out of school at the right time because I would not be able to afford it now. That's just my own personal stance there. Now, Ben, we've chatted about a lot of stuff over the last 35 minutes, but I want to ask two last questions before I let you go. And one of them is, what's the one thing we have not talked about why you're running, about the issues you're hearing about at the door that you want to make sure the people of the MD of Bonnyville, the people of the MD of Bonnyville Ward 6, and even Albertans who are watching this at a later date know about what your reasoning was behind getting involved in this election for a third time?
Again, it's the general community. A lot of times, we need to get out of our MD lane to do some things. Like lately, it's been the schooling tax, right? The tax on schools. We wrote a letter to the minister about that, and also on our end, uh, the not the Catholic side, but on the public side, it's going to be $140 per kid to get bused to school, for a maximum of $120 per household. So not only are they getting nailed with a high increase on their school property taxes, but they're also getting nailed with, if I have 3 kids or I have 4 kids, it's going to cost me another $420 to send these kids to school. And those are, again, as you said, there's only one taxpayer. It's not our lane, and we just collect the money on behalf of the province. But I think when how do you implement rural? How do you implement say rural is a great place to go. Oh, but you're going to get taxed to death. Like it's tough, and those are it's the biggest cost and the biggest call I got from anybody. They're like, yeah, we live in a rural setting. The roads aren't perfectly like highway, but that's what we bought into. Uh, but the schooling end of it, like, crap, why is this going up? So again, that is part of community and a sense of community. And being out there, I listen to have to listen when to a lot of our members, and that's a great part. It's been a moving target all along, and I don't think there'll be anything that's specific, but it is a moving target as we go. And I'm involved in the community quite heavily, so I'm always out there, and I'm always happy to have those conversations with everybody.
Okay, well, you broached the subject, so I'm going to add an extra question in because you know me on this show that if you say something, I'm going to follow up with it right away. But How important is it for you as a counselor, as someone running for reelection, to hear both sides of the equation? To hear people who say, Ben, you said you voted in a way I disagree with, and I'm going to tell you. How important is it for you to listen to both sides of every situation to ensure that you're not just being a silo and listening to the people who agree with you, but listening to the people who also disagree with you? Because there is a sense, and I'm not saying this pointing at you, but there's a sense that politicians silo themselves once they get elected. They only listen to the yes men. They only listen to the people who agree with them. In your time in office, are you open to listening to people who agree with you and disagree with you?
Uh, I that is part of learning, and that is part of changing your mindset. And there's a lot of things that have gone out, and where you hear another view of things, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It makes you grow as a person and as a politician, right? It expands your boundaries, and that's why I totally love about going out to RMA and getting involved with you know the 69 members out there, municipalities, and talking to different counselors and getting some different statements, and it really makes you think and come back to the table, to our table, a little different and a little open, and having those positive conversations. Sometimes they're not what council wants to hear, but you have to have those conversations. So yeah, I think most good counselors are not siloed, and I think I'm definitely one of those where I'm open to anything. So yeah.
So my final question before I let you go, and it's an important one. Now, this is the point in time when I turn the microphone over to you as the candidate running for re-election and give you the opportunity to pitch your vision for Ward 6 and the MD of Bonnyville to the people who are listening, to the people who are watching. So why should people on October 20th put their trust in you as their next, or as their concurrent counselor for Ward 6 and the MD of Bonnyville?
Yeah, I'm definitely on track with building community, the community mindset. I think that's very important. Where we all do things together, and the more we do things together, the more, I guess, we're there for each other as well. Where if somebody needs help, and I think some of the great activities that go on in our area definitely provide that sense of community. Not only that, but as the MD goes, I'm very happy in the last 8 years I was able to equalize, the greater good of the MD that actually involves Ward 6, and it's important for me to be that voice at the MD table for Ward 6, and we've continued it for the last 8 years. We've had some incredible wins, and I think we have to keep that going. And yeah, and just a sense of community. And our community is not just MD of Bonnyville; it is Cold Lake, and I built some great relationships that way, and just keep continuing to build that, not only on the local side but also on the provincial side as well, is where we need to have our voices heard as uh, rural municipalities.
Ben, it is always a pleasure to sit down with you and chat. I feel like
Thank
I'm
you.
just chatting with an old friend every single time you come on the show. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I should note, and I should note just to put this out there, that if someone in the MD of Bonnyville is running in this upcoming election and wants to be part of this show, please reach out to us on our website at crossbordernetwork.ca, and you can find the links and you can join the show, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Now, we have 342 other municipalities that we have to deal with, so you have to do a little bit of work if you want to come on this show, because I would be pretty much 6 feet under if I had to go talk to every single email address and find them. So if you want to take part of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 on the Municipal Affairs Show, reach out to us today. Ben, it is a pleasure, and good luck in the upcoming election, man.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights into the world of this upcoming Alberta municipal election scheduled for October 20th. Now, editorial note time. If you are a candidate running for reeve, councillor, or even mayor, please reach out to us. We would love to have you on the show so we can talk about yourself and the reason why you are running for municipal council in your municipality. Now, your support means the world to us. So if you can, share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we will be back with a brand new episode of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 on Municipal Affairs shortly. Till then, everyone.